everyone. Welcome to At Home with Sally. I'm Sally Clarkson, and I have the biggest privilege in the world to be with so many friends from all over the world who join me every week to listen to my stories, inspiration, biblical encouragement, and I am just so glad that you're here today. Thanks so much for joining me. Hello, my friends. It's Sally Clarkson here. Happy Memorial Day. Today is Memorial Day here in Colorado, and I am on the way to some friend's house for somebody's grilling out. They're going to grill salmon. Yum. It'll be so much fun. It's one of Clay's and my favorite things. And so I just thought I would do a quick, I hate to ever miss, but sometimes I feel like maybe I shouldn't keep up with the things that I'm doing, the 24 Family Ways, God's attributes. Maybe I should go to some more interesting things for a little while. But anyway, I am here. I am excited that you're here with me. And I will just tell you a little tiny bit about my week. I just did the silliest thing in the world. I think that probably my children think I'm a little bit crazy. I sometimes in the afternoons as a kind of a break for Clay and me, because we both work a lot, we do a lot, we go places and stuff. But sometime around tea time, 3:30 or 4, I pop some of my cookie dough balls into the oven, and each of us gets an oatmeal chocolate chip cookie because that's his favorite. And then we have a cup of tea together, and we just have fun. It's kind of one of our rhythms. We have reestablished rhythms now that all of our kids are gone, although they come and go. And that's one of the things I do. So Sarah happened to call me because she's been on a long trip to Ireland. Sarah is my oldest daughter who just turned 40. And I was so happy to talk with her, and we just chatted and talked and shared secrets and talked about heart things. And so I put in the first set of cookies. I just do 2 at a time, one for him, one for me, because then we don't eat a million. And so I had popped some in the oven, and when the timer went off, I went in there, and they were black, solid black, because before I had put them in, I had broiled something. And she had called right as I was going to turn it off. Well, I forgot to unbroil, the oven. So then I took those out. I got 2 more out of the freezer and got a whole different pan. I thought, well, this pan will be cold. And I thought that the oven had a chance to settle down. Well, this time, when I went back to get them out, because the oven hadn't quite gotten cooler yet, they were black on the bottom and regular on the top. And I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I did this twice. And so then I put in 2 more cookies, and hopefully they're edible. But I know that I talked to Sarah for 3 cookies worth of baking before all of a sudden we were talking and her computer ran out of batteries, and that was it. But anyway, do you ever have days like that, or weeks or years like that maybe, when you just can't believe yourself? But that's something that I just did. Well, I had a lot of fun the past couple of weeks. I think I told all of you that I had some local women over, and this pertains to what I'm going to talk about. But I had local women over, and it was so much fun. There a lot of moms of littles, a lot of moms of middles, and a lot of moms of teens and then beyond. But what they really wanted to do was talk to me about what they think I should podcast about, or what I should write a new book about, or what I should answer. And so I thought, I wonder if my audience feels the same way. For instance, I'm going to talk about one thing today, but they left me so many different comments and so many different things. And they've inspired me to think about doing some mini conferences, or just maybe traveling at some point, just a little bit. And I have an idea. I'm not going to share it with you yet because it's a cute idea. But if there are people in churches or places across the United States who think they could gather several hundred people for an evening for some kind of a thing, an event, to meet, to talk, I could share. I might even be able to bring somebody with me, like one of my kids or whatever. I don't know. I'm not promising anything. But tell me if you think, and when I say tell me, I need more than 3 people. And I will put a place to leave comments tomorrow. That's one thing. And then the other thing is, I have tossed about many hours in the past week if I should do some kind of a YouTube channel. And we're actually meeting with some people to see if it would be feasible. But my goodness, my friends, you know that I'm almost 71, and I think, I don't know if I want to attack such a brand new thing where I would have to look nice all the time, at least fairly nice, and edit in a whole new way and put 2 things together. And anyway, so I started thinking about what would be fun. I love my membership. I have to tell you, please, if you aren't a part of my membership and you think it might be of interest to you, join my membership. That helps us pay our staff, our projects, our other things. But this is what I was thinking, and you need to let me know if you think this would be fun. You know that a curator of a museum, a curator, picks and chooses the different events that will happen at the museum, the paintings they'll have, the furniture or the whatever, and they curate, they get to plan and decide what they will have in the museum. And I was thinking, what if I had something, and the reason why I would do it for my membership is because I would have to pay for professional filming if I could, and some professional accounts and stuff that would make it better. But I thought, what if I did a curating the life-giving home? Clay and I have so many different ways that we've collected, saved, put things about. We have old collectible books. We have interesting stories about different things. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have, besides, we have the Awakening Wonder series that has so many books every single time in a unit study. We have cooking with your children and just cooking in general. We have artists and musicians, the histories of them, the stories of them. We have all of the different talks that I've done over years at the Mom Heart conferences. So we have 15 years of different talks and Bible encouragement. We have videos. Anyway, there's a lot on there. But I thought, what about something fun? And you need to tell me, do you think it would be fun for me to curate some things in my kitchen, curate some things in my living room, curate holidays, by curate, I mean, I would gather stories. I would be able to show you things. I would just be able to talk about fun things, because I think that with all the serious, difficult things going on in this chaotic world, for me to be able to talk about some of the traditions, some of the ways, and answer some of these questions. I had questions about the teen years, about women who are quite lonely after all of their children leave. What are they supposed to do with their lives? I have women asking me, how do you control your adult-oriented children, or whatever. That's an interesting question. And things about, you say you're loving to your children, but what does that actually look like for someone who didn't come from a loving family? And so they were multitudinous, and they were great, insightful questions. And so I thought that maybe I would start doing some of those subjects and questions, and maybe reading some more stories. People told me that they loved it when I read some of the stories from my books and then talked about them. So anyway, I'm planning and thinking and praying about what is ahead. And I'm excited about it, but also trying to live at least a sustainable life. Clay and I don't know, every marriage is different. I should talk about marriage too. Everyone wants me to talk about marriage. Oh my, oh my. But we are both intuitives off the chart, and our problem is that if we get together over our tea time and cookie, we'll come up with 10 more projects to do or 10 more books to write. And we're trying to temper each other. We're trying to say, no, you may not do that. That is against the law anymore to have a new project. We already have enough. So we are intuitives and like to plan and imagine things that we will never be able to all get done. So I'm thinking about that right now. But because One of the questions that I had was that people said, how in the world do you really cultivate? Are my children, as many of you know them, Sarah, Joel, Nathan, and Joy, are all writers and communicators, and they discuss things, and they all did just fine in their academics. And people said, how did you do that? And I've often talked about table discipleship, the life-giving table, really. And so I thought I would read you just a little portion of that today and give you some ideas, because after all, I'm getting ready to go eat at someone's house. And this was all about talking and eating. But anyway, I thought I would throw out that on July 4th, on Family Day, and on Labor Day, I would make my mother's baked beans, just in case you ever want to make these. First of all, I would saute some onions. I would chop some onions up and saute them until they were translucent. And then the second thing I would do is I would get just the regular old baked beans. We usually get vegetarian. There was a time when I would crumble up bacon in the baked beans, but then some of my children got real idealistic and said no more red meat for us. So sometimes I will crisp up turkey bacon and put it in, but it's not quite as good. But anyway, then I put in, depending on how big of a group I'm making it for, I squirt a little bit of liquid smoke. Liquid smoke gives it a barbecue taste. I use liquid smoke in my grilled chicken, and I use it in grilled beef of some kind. Oftentimes I put it in my hamburger meat if we ever have hamburgers. Now we have turkey burgers. I put it in there. So anyway, I do several different dashes of liquid smoke. It's in a bottle, and it's liquid that you can get at the grocery store. And then I put about a couple of tablespoons for a small batch, a couple of tablespoons of brown sugar, and then I put probably like a third to a half a cup of ketchup. And then I stir it all up, put it all together, sprinkle a little bit of the turkey bacon bits because it's kind of fun to have that crunchy bacon, or just do bacon if you like bacon. And then I just heat it up, and everybody always thinks it's amazing, and it's really so simple. So anyway, that's my recipe for the day, and I just got another message. Okay, so this chapter in the Life-Giving Table is a little bit of a story, but it's answering actually one of the questions that one of the women wrote to me this week. How in the world do you help your children become articulate? You talk a lot, and then you have the Life-Giving Table. Thousands of times we focused in our table on discussing things, and that's what I'm going to read to you about. And then I'm going to get ready and go have my grilled salmon. William Temple said, the most influential of all educational factors is the conversation in a child's home. That's by William Temple. The most influential of all educational factors is the conversation in a child's home. It's true. It's how my children were able to become writers of books. It's how my children were able to go to Oxford and Cambridge and St. Andrews, and Nathan to the New York Film Academy. They had great conversations in their home. Let me read you this. They were talking with each other about all these things that had taken place. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself approached and began traveling with them. So that's in Luke 24, 14 to 15. But the disciples talked all the time with Jesus, and they asked questions, and they gave answers, and they learned about theology. So Jesus gave it as a model. And the table discipleship principle, this is chapter 5 in Table Talk, the gift of dinner time conversation in the book, The Life-Giving Table. Table discipleship principle, shaping the mind and heart through repeated discussions about truth, beauty, and righteousness, and engaging in these ideas regularly shapes conviction that lasts a lifetime. So, my friends, I remember the first time I tried to have a tea time with my children was when they were really little. I think they were probably something like 6, 4, and 2. And you have to, you kind of ease into it, and you learn how to do this along the way. They will discuss things much more deeply when they are teenagers and don't want to go to bed than they do when they're 2-year-olds. But I can remember that I think that Sarah was having such a lovely little time and sipping her tea, and Clay was getting ready to start some kind of a fun discussion. He would read wonderful books like James Herriot's books to them during our little tea time on Sunday afternoons that's when we started practicing the talking. And I think that Nathan spilled his tea was mainly milk with a little brownness in it. He spilled it on Joel's leg, and that's all she wrote. Then, we had 2 boys crying and, all these different things happening. And so then we just kept at it. And just little things, it mainly just it can be a picnic on the floor. It can be a picnic outside. But it's just having that talk time with your children. Here's what I think. It was a night like any other, which is to say, it was another evening of rousing discussions. Soup spoons suspended in midair, quizzical brows, the thumping of a printed-out article on the table. The article in question had been the source of that evening's discussion. I can't recall the exact topic of the debate, but it likely had something to do with a current event, a book, an important idea, or theological point, or some aspect of music or art or culture. And everybody, absolutely everyone, had opinions about it. Once a learning exercise that Clay and I established and encouraged, dinner-time discussions grew to be the pulsing heartbeat of the Clarkson home and table. It seemed dinner had 2 purposes, to eat and to discuss. In the beginning, I hosted these conversations. When our children were very young, I would ask each of them to tell Daddy, Clay, the most interesting thing they had learned that day, share where they had gone on a field trip, or talk about what they had done with their friends. Their simple but enthusiastic sentences would tumble over each other as they shared the new facts they had picked up, or the adventures they'd had, or the little boy who fell flat on his knee and skinned it. In those days, the dinner table was a place to practice manners, and especially the arts of listening and asking, and trying not to interrupt. The goal was to honor the extroverts with a listening ear and give the introverts with space enough for their words to be heard. As they grew older, sometimes Clay would bring a book or article or summarize part of it and then ask their opinion. We made family policy that no idea was considered unworthy of our discussions, and that no one, regardless of age or background, would be chastised or ridiculed for sharing an opinion. We sought to validate the thinking process in order to strengthen the mental muscle of thinking and engaging in ideas. These days, when everyone is home, we still enjoy the ease of conversation and sharing that became so precious to us, along with the lively discussion that feels so familiar. I hold on for my horses, or whatever that saying is, when all my kids come home, because the discussions get loud and they're long and they're forever. And I think, okay, let's just be quiet for 2 minutes. But really, we have a lot of fun. And I guess I have to admit, I love hearing my children with their ideas and their thoughts and their theology and their values in life, the stories they have now, because talking and sharing and debating became such a natural part of our relationship that it's really so encouraging and it's really so entertaining to be with one another. I miss being in the presence of my children, talking with them. That's why I talked with Sarah 3 batches of cookies worth today. It is no wonder that Joy grew up being a debater. Breathing in the oxygen of our table talk each evening prepared her brain to express her mind and her opinions. Now, I want to tell you why I said that, because Joy, because we traveled so much and we always spoke at conferences in the springtime, Joy was never able to be in the speech and debate team here in Colorado. But I told her, I said, Joy, your last year, if you want to be in the speech and debate team, then I will cancel any of the speaking engagements that are during the time of the debate tournaments and let you be in speech and debate this year. And so she did. She started out, you start out at the very bottom, which is, she was about 1,200 in her rankings. And within 2.5 months, she ended up as number 3 in one competition and number 8 in another one, because she'd been speaking her whole life with her older siblings. And she ended up getting a debate scholarship in college. But it all became because of our meals. I believe that fostering mealtime discussion has been vital to the spiritual, social, and emotional growth of all the individuals at our table. I hear tales that there are families who sit quietly at dinner, not speaking a word. And I must admit that at moments I wish we could practice this more often, especially when there are just boys at home. I am quite convinced that the glory of man, at least a Clarkson man, is to win a discussion. And yet I believe that our lively dinnertime discussions are one of the things that most positively shaped my and my children's lives. Establishing the dinner table as a place of discussion fosters an environment where truth is sought through dialogue, graciousness is taught and upheld, and convictions are formed. Thought and will are 2 of the greatest gifts God has given through His image in our hearts. In His great wisdom and love, God designed us not to be automatons who respond with thoughtless obedience, but He designed us to be thinking, to worship Him with our mind, to be thinking, willing participants in His will. Though it is hard to fathom, God has made a place for us at His table. He made a place for His disciples. And He invites us there to pray, to ask, to wrestle, because He values our responses to Him. He wants us to relate to Him out of love and conviction. True discipleship must reflect the fact that God values our voice, our thought, our will, our engagement in creativity and thinking about how we will present His messages to our world through the skills that we have. Dinnertime discussions reflect and enact this value, making a place where everyone can be heard, be exposed to truth, have the space to develop convictions in the context of community. Through dinnertime discussions, convictions can be formed, confidence can be gained, conversation practiced, and consideration can be taught. Okay, so let me see. I have a little bit of time left. God is all about the heart, forging convictions. This is the gift of Psalm 51:6, which addresses God by saying, "You desire truth in the innermost being." What the psalmist meant is that God desires for His love and truth to have so formed us that they are tucked away in the deepest, truest parts of ourselves. Really, following God can never just be a matter of memorizing a list of rules and doing our best to follow them, but must rather be a deep-seated part of our identity. Knowledge of God is of no ultimate good unless it sinks into our heart and changes the way we view and interface with the world. When discipling our children, we can easily become obsessed with teaching the right things, indoctrination, telling them there's only one answer. And teaching is definitely important, my friends. But the true difference is made when truth becomes a part of the disciple's life, their conviction, because they have participated in it. Indoctrination is from the outside in. Convictions are from the inside out, from the heart outward. We must all reach a point where our knowledge of God goes from intellectual assent to holding a truth in our innermost being, because it's a value, it's a treasure to us. That's when knowledge becomes a conviction. But what does all this have to do with dinnertime discussions? Convictions aren't memorized, they are digested. A sense of an individual voice is essential to developing conviction, because it is through articulating what we personally believe that we are able to own and live by our convictions. Dinnertime discussions were the time when I hoped to encourage this process in my children, to encourage them to use their voices to develop their own convictions. By asking their opinions about various topics, I sought to show them that their voices mattered, that they had the ability to think well, and that their convictions would shape the way that they lived. As a man thinks, so is he. Just as God said to Isaiah, "Come now, let us reason together." Isaiah 1:18. And I wanted to prepare a table for my children to exercise their conviction capabilities. Because we always welcomed and encouraged their opinions, our children thought discussing was as natural as breathing in oxygen. We did not seek to indoctrinate them through force, but rather asked questions and told them, "What do you think about this?" and read them parts of Scripture. And we listened to their thoughts and opinions, as outlandish as they sometimes were. Each one was encouraged to make his or her observations about news, life events, and we did our best to respond thoughtfully to their reflections. And we did interchange with the Bible all the time. Communities of discussion foster the deepening of convictions. A perfect example of this is the Inklings, the group of writers, artists, and academics who met weekly in the 1930s and 40s to discuss ideas and projects. Perhaps the best-known members of this weekly discussion group and reading group were C.S. Lewis, J.R. Tolkien, and Charles Williams. Each week they would bring new writing or an idea that they had encountered and discuss it over a plate of hot, crispy fish and chips. The creative output of that group is almost mind-boggling, and many people believe the foundation for that prolific output was the friendships they developed and the many years they met as friends when they were sharpening each other's thinking, critiqued each other's ideas, and made each other better. All right, my friends, well, I'm going to stop there. There's much more to that chapter. And again, the book I was reading from is A Life-Giving Table, but I think that I might curate, that's our word of the day, lots of other stories if I'm talking about some issues that answer the questions that people wanted me to answer. So I know that probably if you are a normal person, you are so grateful for the school year to come to an end and for you to be able to relax and do some really fun things this summer. And I just want you to know that I have many friends in my life who are bearing heavy burdens, and that includes many of you who write me. And I just want you to know I do pray for you, and your life does matter so much, and you aren't alone. God wants to companion you. Reach out to your friends. Reach across the aisle, so to speak, and embrace people who need a friend to talk with and to bear burdens with. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for these precious, wonderful friends who are in this arena, who care deeply about you, about ideas, about their children, about education, about home. Lord, bless each precious person wherever they are right now. If they need to regroup their schedule, their lives in order to have more sustainable time just to live and have peace and to walk and to have some time for quiet times, give them ideas of how they might sharpen their schedule, make it more resilient for themselves. But Lord, whatever my friends are going through, burdens that they bear, mysteries that they don't know how to solve in their lives, children who are driving them crazy, or perhaps a difficult marriage, Lord, we are all in the process of growing. Help my precious friends not to deeply engage in guilt or in self-condemnation. We are none of us perfect, and yet all of us are walking the pathway towards you. The path of the righteous is like the light of dawn, which shines brighter and brighter until the full day. It's a process of maturity. Be with my precious friends, Lord, and help them not to self-condemn, but to live abundantly in your grace and in your unconditional love. I thank you that you reminded us in John 17 that the love wherewith God loved you, his Son, Jesus, from the beginning of the world is the love with where he loves us. Bless my friends to know that. And Lord, help me to just daily to trust you more and to learn how to please your heart more, because you are so dear to me and to all of us who are here together. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, my friends, I hope by the time you hear this, you will have had a great Memorial Day weekend with either friends or family or maybe some time alone to read or to inspire yourself. Have a great week. Bye-bye. I hope you've enjoyed our time together today and that you'll join me next week. Be sure to look for more inspiration on my blog at sallyclarkson.com. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.